Hi, and welcome to The Boar and the Lion. We are nearing the halfway point of Season 1 for House of the Dragon, and it seems like a good time to me to see how all the characters are holding up to their book counterparts. We will be looking at two things, their looks and their personality. 3 disclaimers before we start. 1. A heavy spoiler warning for the first 4 episodes of House of the Dragon and the book Fire and Blood. 2. House of the Dragon is based on a part of the book Fire and Blood. Depending on where the writers will let the show end, they have 200 to 250 pages of source material. For comparison, the first 5 seasons of Game of Thrones were based on almost 4,500 pages of the A Song of Ice and Fire novels. Therefore, the writers have a lot more freedom in their adaptation, as they simply have less source material to draw from. I will take this into account when looking at the characters. And lastly, to immediately address the elephant in the room, purple eyes. How difficult can it truly be to let the Targaryens and Velaryons wear purple or violet contact lenses? D&D made the choice to not have Daenerys have purple eyes because they thought it would be too much fantasy. Which is a dumb excuse in my opinion, but this change was mostly overlooked because Dany and Viserys were the only 2 main Targaryens in Game of Thrones, so their silver hairs already set them apart from the other characters. House of the Dragon is filled with Targaryens, and I think The Witcher showed us that you can get away with purple eyes just fine. Huge missed opportunity, but seeing that all Targaryens and Velaryons miss this characteristic, we've addressed it here and we won't be pointing it out at each character. That being out of the way, let's dive in. Let's start off with King Jaehaerys, the Old King. We get a small glimpse of him at the end of his life, during the Great Council. Jaehaerys is supposed to be a tall, thin man with a beard and hair to his waist. This small, stocky man does not look like him. We only see Jaehaerys in one scene, where he doesn't have any lines, so no comment on his personality. Shame that they couldn't cast his minor role correctly, but because of Jaehaerys' minuscule contribution to the series, no major complaints from me here. The King on the Iron Throne, King Viserys Targaryen I. He definitely looks like a Targaryen, which I like. The resemblance with his book counterpart stopped there, however. Viserys is thinner than he's supposed to be. Viserys' stoutness was the reason for quite some health problems he had in his life. It seems that they replaced these health issues with the wounds he constantly receives from sitting the Iron Throne. Although the wounds that we see in episode 4 can hardly come from some cuts, but we'll see where they go with this. Viserys' most prominent feature is supposed to be his silver gold mustache, while they chose to give him a cropped beard here. I'm pretty sure Paddy could have rocked a burly mustache as well. They also gave him long hair instead of short hair. I don't like the changes and I don't see a good reason why the changes were made, but at least Viserys looks like a Targaryen. Viserys' personality goes from well adapted to horrible to well adapted again, and then it takes another turn for the worst. Viserys is a pleaser and he hates conflict. He's amiable and open-handed, generous, and he likes throwing balls, tourneys and feasts. He is not considered as a strong-willed man, but when he makes a decision he is unwavering. We see the softer side of Viserys' personality in his interactions with the small council, his daughter, his wife, and in the way that he presents himself to his subjects. This is all true to character. Viserys has a conversation with his wife Aemma, in which he mentions a prophetic dragon dream about his future son. Having prophetic dragon dreams is a trait that runs in the Targaryen family, but it is very rare. Viserys is not one of the Targaryens blessed with these prophetic dreams, and neither was Aegon the Conqueror for that matter. We see Viserys doubting himself later in the season, so it may be that he simply mistook a normal dream for a prophetic one. So far so good, we could say. And then they completely butcher his personality. The birth of his son Baelon, the death of Queen Aemma, and the role that Viserys plays in these events are so out of character. I find it disgusting. I have a good feeling why they did this though. One of the underlying themes of House of the Dragon, and Fire and Blood for that matter, is the unfairness of women not being able to inherit. And the fact that they try to portray this is a good thing, it's part of the story. From what I've seen in the first episodes and even in the trailers before the series started, I get the feeling that they try to make this unfairness the main theme of this story, however. It feels like a build-up to a feminist arc, like we already saw before in Game of Thrones and was wildly disliked. My reasons for this reasoning: Rhaenys' claim at the Great Council is made much more important than it actually was, which I made a video about, which I will link below if you want to know more. The constant emphasizing of the importance of having a son by Viserys and his small council members, and to drive it all home, they have Viserys kill his wife, without even consulting her on the choice that lays before them, for the prospect of having a son. This behavior is wildly out of character for Viserys and I find it absolutely tasteless. But I do hope the writers had a field day when they butchered the personality of one of the main characters so they could push another ideology. The adaptation of Viserys' personality becomes faithful again straight after, when we see his other side, the fact that he is unwavering when he made his decision, in his dealings with his brother Daemon in the aftermath of the family tragedy. His behavior in episode 2 is spot on for his character, but in episode 3 we see the show start to deviate from his personality once again. We see a drunk Viserys snapping at his lords and council members, far from the pleasing king that hates conflict that he is supposed to be. The last couple of episodes also show us a far more strong-willed Viserys than he actually is, which also devalues the personalities of his council members and family, who should be the real people who rule the Seven Kingdoms, while this pleaser king sits the Iron Throne. I'm curious where they are going to go with this personality. Regarding Paddy Considine, great actor, good work so far. Queen Aemma is not described in any way physically in the books, and neither is her personality. The only inspiration we have for her is a drawing in a book shown in the Game of Thrones history and lore series, but this can hardly be counted as source material. Aemma's mother was a Targaryen, her father was an Arryn, and they could have gone either way with her physical appearance. They obviously chose for her Targaryen side. What little that we know of Aemma is portrayed faithfully in the show, her failed labors in the past and the fact that child labor would eventually end her life. The writers couldn't really go wrong here, but I like the way Aemma was portrayed a lot, especially for the humor and sarcasm she gives to the character. Excellent job by Cyan Brook. We of course also get to meet little Baelon Targaryen here. Not much that I can say here, we only ever see him in his swaddling clothes and he lives for a day, just as he does in the books. Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen is the only child of King Viserys and Queen Aemma at the start of House the Dragon. The show puts us in 112 AC, but all the events that we see happening in episode 1 actually happen in 105 AC, so I'm going to go with that. Rhaenyra looks like a Targaryen alright. She is supposed to be 8 years old in episode 1, and we see her as a 14-15 year old. Aging young characters is not something that we see for the first time. The Stark children, Joffrey Baratheon and Daenerys have all been aged up for Game of Thrones. Rhaenyra being 14-15 in this first episode does create a problem, however, and this is caused by the fact that Alicent Hightower is not subsequently aged up with her. The two are shown to be friends and of the same age in the show, which is far from the truth, and based on the trailers we have seen, I expect this to be done for future dramatic effect. In reality, they got along well, until little Aegon was born, when fine turned into hate. Regarding her personality, Rhaenyra is supposed to be proud and stubborn, quick to anger and never forgetting a slight, although she could be charming when she wanted to. Rhaenyra's personality starts out much more moderate than this, but her stubbornness and pride already grows in episodes 3 and 4, especially regarding her stance in having to find a husband. The fact that she didn't want to get married is never specifically stated, although she did receive a lot of proposals from great lords and never accepted any. So, in my opinion, a great story arc to develop her character upon. I just hope that they keep developing her personality to the overly proud and angry woman she is supposed to be as Rhaenyra grows older. I do think that Millie Alcock is doing a great job so far. Rhaenyra's dragon Syrax is the first dragon we meet in House the Dragon and she looks fantastic, very reminiscent of how Daenerys dragons look in Game of Thrones. Syrax is supposed to be a yellow dragon and in the show she is yellow/golden. Sir Harold even calls her that golden beast. This has me a little worried for the portrayal of a dragon we are yet to meet, Sunfire. Sunfire the Golden is the most beautiful dragon the Targaryens ever had, and I'm curious how the writers are going to make him look and be set apart from Syrax. Alicent Hightower is the daughter of the Hand of the King, Sir Otto. Now I got a lot of comments on my video about the casting of Corlys Velaryon, saying that the Hightowers were not faithfully cast either, as they are supposed to have silver or golden hair. I did my research again, and House Hightower does not have a typical look. It is only stated that the two members of the family that we get a physical description of, being Lynesse Hightower, the first wife of Ser Jorah Mormont, and Ellery Hightower, the wife of Mace Tyrell and the mother to Loras and Marjorie, have either silver or golden hair, so even they look different. For a while I thought that the fact that Jaehaerys mistook Alicent for his daughter Rhaenyra must mean that she had silver hair, but after some critical thinking I disagree with that as well. King Jaehaerys was ailing and suffering from dementia, He could just as well have mistook Alicent for one of his daughters if she didn't have silver hair. Based on the artwork in Fire and Blood, the brown hair is just right. She's around 14-15 years old in episode 1, where she is supposed to be 17. So looking at her physique, her portrayal is almost spot on. The fact that Rhaenyra is aged up and Alicent isn't, however, gives the two a dynamic of friendship which should not be there. Alicent is supposed to be smart for her age, and she understands what has to be done for the good of House Hightower. This is perfectly portrayed with the time she spends with King Viserys, orchestrated by her father, who she eventually seduces into marriage. The way in which Alicent behaves herself around the royal family and the small council also shows us that she has an understanding about how court politics work. Similar to Rhaenyra though, I do have some worries about her character. Alicent grows into a strong-willed woman and queen, and much of what we have seen so far from her is meek and soft in my eyes. But thus far I have missed the development in character that we have seen slowly starting with Rhaenyra. Let's hope we will see her character develop in the rest of the season. As of this moment I have doubts if they casted the right actress for this role, but let's give Emily Carey the benefit of the doubt for now. Sir Otto Hightower is the hand of the king of Viserys. His portrayal thus far has been perfect. He's the younger brother of Lord Hightower. House Hightower is the second most powerful house from the Reach, just after their lords House Tyrell. Just as with his daughter Alicent, his physical description is never truly given, and we don't even have art of him in the book, so the writers had carte blanche with the casting. It's at least nice that he and his daughter look kind of alike. His personality has been portrayed just right. Otto is supposed to be haughty, blunt and domineering, and his behavior is methodical. We see his dominant nature in the way he presents himself during small council meetings, in his dealings with his daughter and Grand Maester Melos concerning the king's health problems. His bluntness shows in his interaction with the king's brother, Prince Daemon, and the fact that these two men do not like each other is portrayed well. Otto is a schemer who will do anything to influence Viserys to his own self-interest. He first succeeds in disinheriting Daemon, and after that tries to get his own grandson Aegon to be named heir in favor of Rhaenyra. Up until this point, this is the best portrayal out of all of the major characters. Very well done by Rhys Ifans. Prince Daemon Targaryen is the king's younger brother and the heir to the Iron Throne at the beginning of the series. Daemon looks like a Targaryen, and the only physical characteristic that we know he is supposed to have, his long silver hair, is faithfully adapted. I read a lot of comments from fans that pointed out that Matt Smith was too ugly to play Daemon. Daemon is never described to be beautiful, however. He is described to be dashing, daring and dangerous, charming and hot-tempered. In my opinion, his personality so far is portrayed very well. The way in which Daemon behaves himself during the small council meeting, his actions as the commander of the Gold Cloaks, and his interactions with Otto, Corlys and Viserys, it all matches his personality perfect. His actions in the Stepstones in episode 3 and his new falling out with his brother in episode 4 only complement this. I think it's nice to see that he does have a soft spot for his niece Rhaenyra, which he also has in the books, and which we get to see multiple times. I don't like his new short hair in episode 4, but I hope they let him grow back his hair very soon. Great acting by Matt Smith so far. Daemon's dragon is Caraxes, the Bloodworm. Apart from the fact that he was red and ferocious, a true reason for his nickname, the Bloodworm, was never given. But boy oh boy have they gotten it right. I didn't know I wanted Caraxes to look like this until I saw him for the first time in episode 1. It's perfect, he truly is a bloodworm with wings. Amazing, 10 out of 10. So, based on what we have seen so far, the casting for these roles is quite well done. Looking at the adaptations of their personalities, keeping in mind that some characters can still develop, the casting and acting has been very good and very faithful to the book. With one clear exception, which is Viserys' behavior surrounding his wife's death and his subsequent behavior in episodes 3 and 4. Now I understand that we're not even halfway through the first season yet, and I would like to revisit these characters further on or at the end of the season. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a like, subscribe to my channel and let me know in the comments what you think about the changes that they made to these characters. If you guys like this video enough, I hope to be back soon with part 2, discussing some of the minor characters we meet in season 1. Thank you very much for watching and I hope to see you next time.